Chapter 22. Voldemort. Weapon, the planet's defense system, said to be the most powerful creations aside from the goddess herself. Designed with on purpose, to protect the planet from which threatens to eradicate it. Monstrous beasts standing hundreds of feet tall, all for which were named after precious gems, that is all but 5. Ultimate weapon destroyed nearly 9,000 years ago. Omega, the final weapon, the one that would take the life stream to a new planet when this planet had reached the end of its life. Chaos, the harbinger of death, a weapon that would cleanse the world of all life before Omega's ascension. Crimson weapon, the angel of fire, and golden weapon, Gaia's golden protector. Shutting the ancient tomb, Albus closed his eyes, sighing deeply. How had he not seen this before? The answer was easy. Weapons, Gaia, the calamity. The nightmare. All had fallen so far into legends that even he had not known of them until recently. No, that wasn't correct. He knew of them, he had just chosen to forget. He knew of them because Voldemort had been obsessed with the legend of the nightmare all through his days at Hogwarts, even going as far as the try and become the man. Tom had found ancient tombs in Hogwarts library, many within the deepest recesses of the forbidden sections, books not even Albus knew existed. Pulling out the now destroyed Riddle's diary, he flipped it open. With the destruction of the Horcrux, the original words began to show, their words as disturbing as the man he had become. I have found another book pertaining to the one-winged angel of legends, slits for pupils that burn crimson with the hatred of the world. He destroys all those that are unworthy, all those not of pure blood. His birthright to rule this planet was taken from him 3 times, all by the same man. I have discovered the source of his power, an ancient magic placed inside a small orb. With that he could command the very stars and bend them to his will. The power of the ancients, I will find this, and with it I will continue his work. I will become the one-winged angel. All I need is the black materia. Taking in a shuddering breath, Albus looked at the green materia still resting on his desk, his eyes shifting to a piece of parchment that lay on his desk. Black ink in elegant tight scrawl looked back at him, the words haunting his thoughts. It simply read: he was found what he did not have last time. Voldemort had found something he had been looking for during the First War. Now he was found it. Knowing that this was well out of his hands, Albus pulled out a fresh piece of paper and with slightly trembling hands wrote out a short encrypted letter and held it out to Fawkes. Take this, make sure you give it directly to him. With a thrill of a song, the phoenix was gone in a burst of flames. Leaning back in his chair, he closed his eyes, praying silently to the planet this was the right decision. Flames licked against his body, their heat unfelt, their color painting his ivory skin orange and red. All around him he could hear the screams of those trapped within their houses, slowly suffocating and burning alive. Their voices ringing out, crying for someone to save them, to spare them. Blood painted the earth at his feet along with the silence of those that had fallen to his blade. It mattered not that these had been women and children, they were traitors. All of them. That is it, my child. Remember who you are. Remember your birthright. The traitors still live, bring them to their knees once more, my beloved son. The flames vanished, revealing a black corridor before flashing, showing a room full of artifacts. Find me, my son. Set me free so that we may sail the cosmos with this planet as our vessel. Sephiroth shot up in bed, a scream ripping from his throat, hands flying to his head. No, no, no. His whole body was shaking and covered in a cold sweat. No, she was supposed to be dead. Seph? Angel quickly moved over to the bed, seeing his general shaking like a leaf. Reaching out, Sephiroth grabbed onto Angel, using him as the anchor he had always been. She's still alive, Angel. I heard her again. Sitting down on the bed, Angel quickly pulled the younger boy to him, holding him tightly. He didn't need to ask who he meant. There was only one woman that could honestly frighten Sephiroth. Jenova was still alive, and she had found her son once more. Don't worry, Seph. She won't take you again. Genesis, Cloud. Your father, they won't allow her to harm you again, and neither will we. Don't let her take me. Sephiroth's voice was small as he shook violently against Angel's chest. It was easy to forget that while Sephiroth's mind had returned, he had always been nothing more than a young child and still was. Insecure and frightened around people, longing for acceptance and the love of a parent. Even though he had lost his parents in both lives before he ever knew them, he knew of the sacrifices they had made for him. Jenova used him and he knew it. Tomorrow, Seth, go down, speak with Snape. Resume those lessons to block her from your mind. Don't give me that look. Sephiroth had given him a look like he was completely insane. Didn't blame him. Angel was honestly questioning his own sanity at this point. If it meant keeping Sephiroth safe though and out of Jenova's clutches, he would tell the man to take lessons from Voldemort. Come on, Seth, let's try and get some sleep. We got Umbridge in the morning. Nodding, Sephiroth pulled away and laid back down. He jumped slightly when Angel laid down beside him, wrapping his arms around him. Angel, what are you? Hush. Snorting, Sephiroth shook his head. Everyone was stealing his word. Grateful that his friend was doing this for him, Sephiroth closed his eyes, leaning in against the strong warmth beside him. He was no Genesis or Tseng, but he was still a dear friend, a comfort he needed right now. Silently, a transparent hand pulled the blankets up and over the two slumbering boys before running softly along silver moonlit strands. Don't worry. She will never be allowed to harm you again. Ghostly transparent lips gently laid themselves against Sephiroth's cheeks before pulling away. Feeling the chill against his skin, Sephiroth opened his eyes just in time to see a ghost figure in pure white walk through the wall. She found him. 3 sets of eyes glanced up from their books inside a large library, glancing at the 4th. She's alive? Yes. And she found him. What are we going to do? We're going to find him. And kill her once and for all. Don't cry. I'm not crying. Do we know where he is? No. But I can feel him. Then we shall leave immediately. You look like shit, you. Sephiroth growled across the table, glaring at Reno as he clutched onto his first energy drink. He kept having nightmares all night. Thankfully none of them had been about Jenova, meaning he had gotten almost no sleep whatsoever last night. Tseng was sitting next to him, gently rubbing his back. He always seemed to know when he had a bad night. Hey, you can't go in there. Instantly the whole hall fell silent, each head turning towards the shout outside the great hall doors. I said you can't go in. That was Filch. A second later the doors were thrown open with enough force they ricochet off the walls, causing people to scream and leap back in their seats. Dumbledore stood at the head table, wand drawn, but slowly lowered it as he saw a young blonde stride into the room. He wore an outfit very similar to Genesis, though was distinctly different in design. Against his back was a massive sword that no normal person would be able to wield. Quickly he moved around the table as the boy. No man strode down between the tables, his footsteps confident and silent. He noticed the changing boys were all watching him. Blaze was standing and moving out from the table and into the blonde's path. Mr. Zarbini, what are you doing? McGonagall was also on her feet, wand drawn, as was every other teacher, including the wretched Toad not far from them. Blaze ignored them, instead moving up to the blonde, who stopped, brilliant glowing blue eyes looking up at the slightly taller boy. They were talking in very low tones, but Albus knew how to read lips. What are you doing here? We received a letter from the headmaster. And you decided it was a good idea to just come here? Cloud, you've been married to me how long now? And living with Vincent how many thousands of years? You don't walk into the unknown. Tseng. I love you, but give me some credit. I'm a weapon now, remember? And he sent me this. Cloud, as he was called, held out the parchment. Blaze took it and instantly paled about 8 shades, which was quite a feat as he was so pale already. Dumbledore frowned. No one should know about the black materia, yet Blaze, simply looking at the letter, had seemed to know exactly what it was. In a flash the boy's face became perfectly emotionless, an air of authority coming over him, and he handed back the parchment. "Tell me what you find. This just got a hell of a lot more dangerous." Cloud nodded and leaned up, kissing Blaze gently. Ignoring the startled looks of the students and teachers, he pulled away gently, running his fingers through Tseng's hair. Turning, he headed up towards the head table, cold eyes locking with Dumbledore's. Stopping in front of the stage, he looked up at the old man that ran this school, those twinkling blue eyes looking at him knowingly. Not giving anything away, Cloud held up the parchment. "We need to talk." Albus nodded, a soft smile playing on his lips, and moved to the stairs. "Albus, this man is wanted by the Ministry." Dolores had moved out from around the table, her wand drawn and leveled at Cloud. "This man is to be arrested and held until the Ministry can arrive." "On what charge?" Cloud asked, his blue eyes locking with hers. His right hand started to move behind his back towards the hilt of First Jerugi. "On charges of the destruction of the Daily Prophet and conspiracy against the Ministry, of course." Cloud actually laughed at that, his hand moving away from his sword and instead moved into a pocket where he withdrew a rolling green materia. "Really? With what proof other than I am new in town and it's easy to blame the new guy?" He clutched the materia in his hand and looked over to the boys, a small smile playing on his lips. Zack started to laugh and laugh hard. He knew that look, he knew that look way too well on Spiky. Umbridge looked to Zack, seeing him laughing, wondering what the hell this boy was laughing at, before turning back to Cloud. Before she could even open her mouth, she watched the green orb in his hand flare to life and kissing his hand in green before it flew out and struck her. The whole hall stood up, waiting with bated breath for the light to vanish. When it did, there was a moment of silence before the whole hall erupted with laughter. Zack was on the floor rolling in laughter. Reno was pounding on the table trying to get air in. Angel had his face covered, but you could hear him laughing like hell behind them. Sephiroth had a hand over his mouth, but you could see in his eyes he was laughing like hell, tears rolling under his fingers. Tseng was looking back at him, amusement lighting his eyes. Moving over, he leaned down, kissing him deeply, slipping something into his husband's robe pocket. Feeling the heavy weight in his pocket, Tseng pulled back and opened his pocket, steel-colored eyes going wide before tears sprung up into them. He quickly looked up as Cloud gave him a small wink and turned back to Albus, who was laughing silently behind his hand. Turning away, Tseng caught Sephiroth's eyes, a knowing smile in them. Gently he wrapped his hand around the grip of his beloved Colt. This gun was his baby, a special present from his Turks and Sephiroth when he became director. Cloud had kept it all these years and now brought it back to him. "I knew there was a reason you married him," Sephiroth said, leaning over slightly. Before Tseng could respond, a croak from the stage set both of them off, and with identical evil smiles they looked over to where an ugly pink toad was hopping around the stage. Stepping into Dumbledore's office, Cloud looked around, his eyes cataloguing every entrance and exit to the place. "Please, have a seat. Lemon drop?" Albus moved to sit behind his desk. Even though he knew this man was one of the planet's weapons, he didn't feel threatened at all. In fact, he felt very safe with the man. Pulling his eyes from the windows, Cloud shook his head. Moving over to the desk, he pulled the weapon out easily and leaned it up against the side of the chair before sitting down. "Forgive my manners. I am Albus Dumbledore, headmaster of the school, and you, my boy, are one of the planet's chosen protectors." Cloud's eyes narrowed. Albus knew he now had the boy's complete attention. Slowly Cloud sat back, his eyes never once leaving Dumbledore. Cloud Strife, golden weapon. The twinkle in Albus' eyes seemed to grow even more. Golden weapon, Gaia's golden protector. No wonder he felt no threat from the boy. His job on this earth was to protect its people until the day chaos is to rise and crimson is to burn the planet. Albus bowed his head low, realizing he was in the presence of someone very old and very powerful. "It is an honor to meet you, though I must admit I was expecting Mr. Rhapsodos." Cloud shook his head and held up the parchment once more. Genesis was asleep under the city when the nightmare was unleashed. He knows almost nothing about the black materia. And you do? I was the one that gave it to Sephiroth. Still a thought that haunted him. With Sephiroth back, if he ever went insane again, he could control him just like Jenova had done back then. Albus froze, reaching for the green materia Ron had given him. Had Cloud just said he had given it to Sephiroth? The same name Harry was now going by. Sephiroth, that is not a very common name, is it? Cloud leaned forward, his arms resting on the desk in front of him, eyes boring into Dumbledore's. You are already putting it together, aren't you? Meeting Cloud's eyes, Albus swallowed. He had a feeling deep in his old heart that what was happening to the boys was more than a simple curse. Harry is the nightmare, isn't he? Reborn. Given a second chance to atone for the sins of the past. All of them that you see changing are reincarnates of those that existed with Sephiroth. Having a feeling this would happen and he would have to explain it, Cloud had borrowed several of the photographs Genesis carried on him along with some of his own. Pulling them from his pants pocket, he laid the first one out. It was of Genesis, Sephiroth and Angel standing on top of a VR platform, all looking down at the person taking the picture. Gently taking the picture, Albus looked them over, instantly seeing Harry and Neville standing next to a shorter-haired Genesis. Harry stood with much longer silver hair with arched bangs, dressed in a long black leather duster, silver shoulder guards, black leather pants and black thigh-high boots. Laying against the railing next to him was the same sword he had summoned several weeks ago. Neville stood on the other side of Genesis in an outfit very similar to the one Cloud wore in front of him, just with slight difference. Massive sword, also very similar to Cloud's, was strapped to his back. General Sephiroth Valentine, Commander Genesis Rhapsodos, and Commander Angel Hewley, all three soldier first class. They were better known as the Holy Trinity of Shinra, as they were the three most powerful soldier in existence. Sephiroth and Angel were both reincarnated as Harry Potter and Neville Longbottom. Albus looked up from the picture. There was a slightly haunted look in Cloud's eyes. People that died tragically or well before their time were given a second chance at life when Gaia gave Sephiroth his second chance. Sephiroth I threw into the core of a Mako reactor when he slaughtered my hometown in a bid of insanity. Angel, according to Genesis, committed suicide by puppy. Cloud laid down another picture, this one of Zack shortly after becoming second class, and he was standing next to Angel. Zack Fair, at the time soldier second class, though he died as a first class. He was called Puppy because he was so hyperactive. He was Angel's protege. He changed after he was forced to kill Angel. Dumbledore's blue eyes softened slightly, instantly recognizing what was Fred Weasley. You have said these are all soldier? Cloud nodded, seeing the old man was actually curious and not dismissing it instantly. He would still have to be careful on what he told him. Soldier was a genetically enhanced group of humans that were the elite of the military of Shinra. Shinra, that was printed on the side of the Daily Prophet building. Dumbledore's eyes began to sparkle brightly as he saw the small evil smile start to cross Cloud's face. Let's just say, Albus, Vincent does not take well to people insulting his son. Sephiroth's father? He is a weapon as well? Reluctantly, yes. He is fused with chaos along with 3 other demons. That is his story to tell, not mine. Swallowing slightly, Albus nodded. He could understand that. He looked down at the pictures he had before looking back. And the others? The others are a part of another branch of the military, the Turks. Shinra assassins. They are the group that work behind closed doors, espionage, stealth missions, assassinations, interrogations, kidnapping, bodyguards to the higher-ups, general pains in the asses. Albus chuckled at that as his voice as the end was filled with affection. It sounds to me that the group you speak of holds a special place in your heart. They do. Lifting up one picture, Cloud smiled. It was his personal favorite. He set it down, allowing Albus to take it. It was a picture of him and Tseng sitting under a sakura tree back in Utai. It was Tseng's first time home. They had been there to help Yuffie settle a dispute among her people. It was actually their wedding night, as they had been married in Utai at the palace by the hyperactive princess. My husband, Sen'ak Era. Director of the Turks. He was one of the best Turks Shinra ever had. He was only 19 when he was made director. Cloud took a deep breath as the memory of how his husband he died surfaced in his mind. Albus looked over the image, easily recognized Blaze. He now understood that radical change. The boys were changing to who they had previously been, and Tseng was as far from black as you could get. He didn't dare ask though how the young man had died. It was obvious just in Cloud's eyes it was a painful topic, one he did not wish to bring up. Not when the man was willingly telling him what was happening. Getting his mind back under control, Cloud sat down the next picture, this one of Rude and Reno shortly after the remnant battle. They were dirty and beat up, but Reno still had enough strength to stick his tongue out at the camera. Reno and Rude, Tseng's second and third in command. They have been partners ever since I first met them during the hunt for Sephiroth. Always getting into trouble blowing something up. So that is what happened to the hallway on the first day of school. A bright smile lit his face, remembering the destruction of the hallway with mole explosives. That's Reno's mo. Bigger the better. The last two Turks. Saisna and Elena. He set two pictures down showing the girls. I don't know much about Saisna. She was close to Zack and she died not long after he did. Elena I knew a little better, but we generally stayed away from each other. She didn't like me much. May I ask why? He was truly curious. Cloud was so human in his emotions and the way he spoke. It was hard to believe he was a weapon. I married the man she wanted. Well, that would do it. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. There is one other. Draco Malfoy. He is neither Turk nor soldier, is he? Cloud laid out a final picture, allowing Dumbledore to look over it. Rufus Shinra, the vice president of Shinra when Sephiroth and Zack were still a part of Soldier. President after Sephiroth killed his father during his days as the Nightmare. Now. Cloud folded his hands on the desk, looking Dumbledore right in the eye. Where is the black materia?
I'm glad you enjoyed that video/gameplay. Just remember to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. Until next time, goodbye!